Some betrayals don't come with warning signs. They arrive, dressed in champagne and candlelight, whispered behind clinking glasses, unfolding in slow motion across a room full of people who claimed to love you. I used to believe that families didn't break in public. I was wrong. The Whitlow estate looked exactly as it always had, perfect, curated, untouchable. Fairy lights hung from the oak trees. Classical music drifted through the warm spring air, and every face seemed rehearsed for a magazine cover. My engagement party was in full swing. Guests sipped wine under the tented garden while my mother greeted them like royalty. I stood near the fountain, a glass of rose in hand, surrounded by old friends and distant cousins. But Felix hadn't arrived yet. He texted that he was running late, something about a client call. I'd been patient, maybe too patient, for too many months. Still, I smiled through it. My sister Emory had slipped in moments earlier, glowing in a backless gold dress that shimmered under the lights. She waved casually and disappeared into the crowd. Then the microphone clicked on. "Hi, everyone," Emory's voice rang out across the garden. She stood under the archway where Felix and I were supposed to give our toast. "Before we raise our glasses, I have something important to share." I blinked, confused. She wasn't supposed to speak. "I know this is Taran and Felix's night," she said, hand on her belly. "But I can't keep this in anymore. I'm pregnant." A ripple of gasps swept through the crowd. Then she said it without hesitation, without shame. "And the father is Felix." The sound drained from the world. Someone dropped a glass. My aunt covered her mouth. My mother froze mid-smile, and I just stood there, breath locked in my chest, as the woman I grew up protecting announced she was carrying the child of the man I was supposed to marry. No apology, no regret. Just, I needed to be honest with my feelings. And just like that, my life cracked publicly, elegantly, cruelly. I didn't cry that night. Not when the crowd gasped. Not when my mother clutched her pearls and looked away. Not even when Felix finally arrived, standing beside Emory with the expression of a man who knew his world had just been exposed. I excused myself quietly, walked past servers offering flutes of champagne, and climbed the stairs to my childhood bedroom. The moment the door clicked shut, silence returned. The kind that doesn't soothe, it sharpens. I sat down at my old desk. Same view of the vineyard through the bay window. Same vintage lamp. But I wasn't the same girl who once sat here building dioramas for school or writing college essays. I wasn't 16 anymore, trying to be the perfect daughter. I was 33, betrayed, yes, but broken, no. I opened my laptop. As the screen lit up, memories began to surface. Uninvited, but insistent. Emory had always known how to occupy space, not just rooms, but hearts. Our parents loved us both. Or so they claimed. But Emory was the one they noticed, the one they bragged about. I was the old soul, the independent one, code for the one who didn't need praise. Or so they thought while she twirled through ballet recitals and high school pageants. I sat in the wings holding her shoes and carrying the backup hairpins. They called it balance. I called it neglect dressed in diplomacy. Even Felix wasn't immune to Emory's gravity. I remembered a night, maybe 6 months into our relationship, when I walked into the kitchen at one of our family barbecues and saw them laughing too closely. A shared joke, a soft glance. His hand had brushed her arm, almost too long. She pulled away, but not fast enough. When I stepped in, both turned like I'd caught them stealing something. I let it go because that's what I'd always done. Another time, Felix had disappeared during my father's birthday dinner. He said he'd gotten a call from work, but his phone had still been on the living room table. I swallowed those things back then, filed them under doubtful instincts, but tonight, in the aftermath of Emory's announcement, they rearranged themselves into a clear pattern. I hadn't missed the signs. I had chosen not to see them. I began typing. Not a diary entry. Not a tearful confession. A plan, names, dates, financial accounts, passwords Felix might have changed. Projects we'd co-developed that he'd likely claim as his own. I created folders. One marked legal, one marked strategy, and one simply titled M. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was preparing for precision. Let Emory and Felix have their moment in the spotlight. Let them feel victorious. I'd let the world believe I was devastated, quiet, out of the picture. Because that's how miscalculations happen, and I was done being underestimated by morning. The sting of betrayal hadn't dulled. It had crystallized. I didn't wake up feeling numb. I woke up feeling focused. Beneath the ache was something sharper. The refusal to let this story be written by someone else's hands. Felix and Emory may have stolen my engagement, but they wouldn't define the fallout. So, I called Jules. Jules Monroe had been my roommate at Northwestern. Sharp-witted, unshakable, and fiercely loyal. She now ran a boutique legal firm specializing in corporate ethics and intellectual property. When I texted her, "Need a meeting? Personal and urgent." She called within 3 minutes. "Meet me at my office in an hour," she said, "and bring everything." Jules's office was in a sleek high-rise downtown, the kind of place where the receptionist didn't ask questions but offered espresso. I stepped into her glass-walled corner room, and before I could sit, she closed the door and said, "Tell me everything. Start slow. Leave nothing out." I did. Every chilling detail from the microphone announcement to the unshaken look on Emory's face. The months of small betrayals I'd ignored, and the plan I'd started drafting at midnight. Jules listened without interruption, only nodding occasionally, her fingers steepled under her chin. When I finished, she exhaled and walked over to her desk. "You're not crazy," she said. "But you're in a war, and it's not just about heartbreak. This," she tapped the legal pad where she'd taken notes, "is a coordinated strike against your life, your credibility, your work." I nodded once. "Then let's start hitting back," and we did. By that afternoon, Jules had drafted a list. Felix's company login, where shared product documents were stored, camera access, including the Whitlow Estates outdoor security system, legal research, prenuptial clauses, intellectual property protections, and possible NDA violations. Then came the more personal tasks. Jules slid a small test kit across the desk. "I know it's awkward, but we'll need DNA brush, or toothbrush, anything that could confirm paternity." I stared at the kit. My pulse didn't waver. "She left a hairbrush at my apartment once," I said. "I'll find it." Jules met my eyes. Serious. "Taran, this isn't about revenge, it's about control. Emory and Felix tried to hijack your narrative. You're taking it back." I nodded slowly. "I don't want them ruined," I said, my voice even. "I want them exposed." She leaned back in her chair. "Good, because this isn't just about love gone wrong. This is a hostile takeover of your future, your work, your name." And there it was. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This was about honor. Mine. And I was done letting it be collateral damage. The next few days blurred into a mix of legal wrangling, confidential meetings, and careful surveillance. I had no time to grieve, no room to let the loss of my family, my engagement, and my identity sink in. Every waking moment was devoted to finding the leverage I needed to take back control. I logged into my bank accounts, scrutinizing transactions. With surgical precision, I pulled the last of my personal investments together, my contacts, the networks I'd built for years. I was preparing to fight a war I didn't choose, but it wasn't going to be a messy one. It would be precise. It would be calculated. It would be mine. Then came the email, a forwarded pitch deck from an investor I'd casually spoken 2 months ago. The subject line read, "Excited about Leah Skin Revival. Congrats on the funding." My stomach tightened. Leah Skin Revival was mine. Not just a product concept, but 2 years of market research, ingredient testing, branding work. Long nights at my kitchen table, sketching out consumer personas, while Felix sat beside me pretending to help. He knew every version of that plan. He'd watched it evolve from idea to execution. And now someone else was claiming it. I opened the attachment. There it was. The same deck I'd crafted. Fonts, phrasing, even the tagline. "Nature doesn't compromise, and neither should you." Only one thing had changed. The name on the cover. Emory Whitlow, founder and CEO. My vision, her name. Their theft. I couldn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. Then I opened my laptop's shared folder and searched the document history. Sure enough, Felix's user ID had downloaded the final deck 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. That was after the engagement party, after the public humiliation. While I'd been recovering from emotional whiplash, he'd been forwarding my life's work to my sister. The anger hit in waves. Sharp, acidic, immediate, not just because they had stolen from me, but because somewhere, somehow, I had believed that maybe Felix's betrayal was personal, messy, emotional, human. But this was calculated. A strategic takeover of everything I'd built. I texted, "Jules, they stole Leah." 5 minutes later, she called. I read the email aloud. Her voice turned cold. This changes everything. She instructed me to pull bank records, IP timestamps, and send screenshots. If funding was wired under false pretenses, we can open legal proceedings immediately, she said. But emotionally, I need to ask, are you ready for how far this might go? I was beyond ready. I was furious. An hour later, my phone buzzed. It was Felix. I didn't think you'd find out like this. I just wanted your sister to have the same opportunities you did. Don't blow this up. It's not worth it. Not worth it. I stared at the screen. Every ounce of trust I had left burning away. He wasn't even denying it, wasn't apologizing, just trying to manage my reaction, like I was a loose cannon instead of a woman watching the last pieces of her dignity, BMONETIZED, that they had taken my heart. Now they were after my name, and I had no intention of letting them keep either. There's a special kind of silence that falls when a family pretends everything's fine. It echoed across the long mahogany table like a second heartbeat. My mother had outdone herself. Candles, matching napkins, white roses, and crystal vases. It looked like a holiday dinner, but nothing about that night felt warm. We were gathered for what she called a path back to peace. Her voice during the phone call had been syrupy and forced. Taran, it's time to start healing. You're still sisters. Family is family. Oh, as if proximity and shared DNA erased betrayal. I came because I needed to, not for closure, but for confirmation and for what I was about to deliver. Felix sat at one end of the table, shoulders stiff, eyes scanning everything but me. Emory, opposite me, looked to put together, lipstick to red, smile to rehearsed. Her hands, though, trembled slightly when she lifted her water glass. My mother hovered, trying to keep conversation alive. I made your favorite Taran, lemon chicken, with rosemary, just like when you were little. She sounded desperate for normalcy, for performance, but I wasn't interested in pretending. Halfway through dinner, when the conversation turned toward the baby, we've started looking at names, Emory offered. I set my fork down gently and reached into my purse. The room froze the moment they saw the envelope. I placed it on the table and slid it forward. Before you get too excited about baby names, I said, my voice unwavering, I think there's something we should clear up. Emory stared at the envelope like it might explode. Felix's face paled instantly. My father shifted in his seat, confused. I spoke clearly without raising my voice. This is a copy of a medical document. Felix underwent a vasectomy 18 months ago at his request. I have the signed consent form, the follow-up appointment notes, and the surgeon's statement confirming the procedure success. My mother blinked, stunned. What are you saying? I'm saying, I replied, locking eyes with Emory, that whatever is growing inside you isn't Felix's. The silence was deafening. Emory's face crumbled. You're lying, she whispered. I didn't forge anything, I said. I didn't have to. Sacred Oaks Clinic keeps excellent records. Nobody moved, not a single breath. And then just for a second, I saw it. The crack in Emory's armor, the first real one. Her hand curled protectively over her stomach, but the certainty in her expression vanished. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it. Again, I leaned back in my chair. Don't worry, I added softly. I'm not done yet, I still have a few more surprises. No one touched their food after that. The roses wilted in the candlelight, but I didn't care. I had just taken back the first piece of power they stole. The press conference was held in the atrium of the Avenus building downtown, all glass, steel, and ambition. Exactly the stage I needed. The launch of Leah Skin Revival had generated weeks of buzz. The media, influencers, potential investors, they were all there, expecting the unveiling of the next big name in luxury, skincare. They were about to get something far more unforgettable. I stood quietly at the edge of the crowd as the event began. Emory arrived first in a crisp ivory suit, all polish and fake humility. Felix followed, chin lifted as if nothing in his life had come undone. The two of them posed in front of the branded backdrop as if they owned the moment. They didn't dot. My voice came through the mic clear and even. Thank you all for coming, I said from the stage. Before we begin, I'd like to invite Emory Whitlow and Felix Granger to join me for a special announcement. Their smiles flickered, but they stepped up beside me. Felix leaned toward the mic. We're honored to share this launch with the world, he said. I raised a hand. Actually, I began. Before that, there's something I need to show everyone. It's short, but important. The screen behind us came to life. A recording. Felix's voice first. Once we get the pitch in under Emory's name, she can lock the funding. Taran doesn't need to know yet. She's too emotionally attached to the concept. Then Emory's voice, soft but sharp. She crumble when she finds out. Just act supportive. Until the press hits. Gasps rippled through the room. Felix turned toward me, face drained of color. Emory stood frozen, lips parted, but wordless. I stepped forward again. There's more. Slide 2. A scanned DNA report filled the screen. My voice remained composed. For those of you who watched my sister announce her pregnancy with Felix's child, there's been a revision. The words were highlighted in red. Paternity excluded. 0% match. Silence fell like a dropped curtain. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Oh my God." Emory took a step back. Felix looked like he might throw up. "I've waited weeks to share this truth," I said calmly. Today's launch isn't just about skincare. It's about cleansing of names, of narratives, of lies. Cameras flashed. Journalists whispered furiously. Felix turned to Emory. Betrayal, hitting him back in full force. "You said," he began, voice trembling. "I thought it was you." Emory choked out. The irony nearly made me laugh. I didn't need to gloat. I just turned back to the microphone. Leah's skin revival was never theirs. It was mine, and so was the truth. Applause broke out. Not polite, but stunned and real. And for the first time in months, I stood at the center of my own story, unapologetic, unbreakable, unforgettable. Within 24 hours of the press conference, Emory posted a video. She filmed it in soft lighting, her voice trembling, her makeup perfectly smudged. She called it, "My Side of the Story." It went viral in under 6 hours. She forged the medical records. Emory cried into the camera, hands protectively over her stomach. She ambushed us. I'm pregnant, hormonal, and trying to navigate a high-risk pregnancy, and my own sister chose to humiliate me in front of the world. The comments section exploded. Taran Whitlow is ruthless, cold, calculated. Pregnancy is never a PR stunt. She weaponized a family crisis. The world didn't see me as the woman who reclaimed her narrative. They saw a ruthless villain, and for a moment, it stung. My inbox flooded. My voicemail overflowed. My name, once linked to innovation, now trended beside words like vindictive and vindicated. Then came the email from our company's board. Subject, temporary administrative leave. The message was polite, polished, and impersonal. We understand this is a challenging time for you personally. However, given the intensity of media scrutiny, we believe it is in the company's best interest to place you on paid administrative leave until the situation stabilizes. My reputation was bleeding out in real time. And the people I'd helped build this business with were handing me a band-aid and a seat in the waiting room. I didn't cry. I didn't scream, but I did sit motionless, staring at that email like it had been written in another language. And then my phone rang. "My mother Taran," she said, her voice tight with restraint. "Your sister is a wreck. She hasn't stopped crying since yesterday. And now this video." "Yes, I saw it," I said flatly. "We're thinking," she continued, carefully avoiding the word blame, "that maybe it's time to bring in legal counsel. Let the courts look at the documents. Make sure everything is valid." Valid. My own parents, after everything Emmy had done, were investigating me. "You think I faked medical records?" I asked. "We just want to be fair," my father cut in. "You ambushed her, and she's pregnant. Taran ... pregnant. No one mentioned that the child wasn't Felix's, that my humiliation had been public, that I'd been the one betrayed first." I stared at the phone, numb. "You know what?" I said, "Go ahead. Get a lawyer." And then I hung up. No follow-up, no apology, just silence.